They're in the lunch break now, but George Zimmerman's trial is expected to resume about half an hour or so from now.
We've been hearing a very different account today from what we've been hearing from previous witnesses. This is about the night that Zimmerman killed Trayvon Martin. Now, the latest testimony came from a neighbor who witnessed the fatal fight, and he indicates that it was Trayvon Martin on top of Zimmerman moments before Zimmerman shot Trayvon Martin.
All right. If you could you tell at that time, in terms of describing who was on top and who was on the bottom?
I could only see colors of clothing.
Okay. The color of clothing on top, what could you see?
It was dark.
Okay. How about the color of clothing at the bottom?
I believe it was a light white or red color.
All right, let's bring in legal analyst Sunny Hostin and Jean Casares. They're outside the court in Sanford, Florida. Our legal analyst, Mark NeJame, is with us from Orlando. Now, guys, we all know that Trayvon Martin was wearing the black hoodie the night he was killed, and George Zimmerman was wearing that red and black jacket. Now, the witness also making it clear the light-skinned person, as he put it, was on the bottom during the fight. Now, Sunny, let's start with you. What is this saying about the status of the defense and prosecution?
I mean, this is a significant win for the defense, but we always knew that this witness was coming. This witness statement was released in discovery, and I think that's why the prosecution called this witness, even though it really was a defense witness. We also just learned that the defense has subpoenaed this witness and has asked him to stay around. I think the prosecution called him because they didn't want to give the jury the impression that they were trying to hide this version of events. Remember, he is the only witness that places Trayvon Martin on top of George Zimmerman. Every other witness that has testified, all the other neighbors say it was George Zimmerman that was on top of Trayvon Martin. So this testimony really corroborates what George Zimmerman is saying, which is that he was pummeled, basically, MMA style, by Trayvon Martin, and that's why he feared for his life, and that's why he felt that he needed to protect himself by shooting Trayvon Martin. So, again, this testimony came in through the prosecution, but just a terrific, terrific witness for the defense because it corroborated what George Zimmerman has been saying.
And Mark, tell us how unusual this is for the state to actually call that kind of witness to the stand.
Well, it was a smart move by the state. They knew, as Sonny just said, that he was going to be called. He was going to be a defense witness. So what they didn't want to do was lose credibility in front of the jury. They've been running a perfectly clean timeline on this. And to have left out a critical witness would have made the jurors appropriately suspicious. So I think what they did is they tried to take the wind somewhat out of the defense's sails by calling this witness up first, knowing that he was going to be incredibly damaging, which he was, to the state's case. They also threw a backdoor way where he was able to establish a little bit, in light of Ms. Janelle's testimony the other day. They were able to show that he wasn't asked all the questions, and he didn't answer or provide all the information without being asked certain questions. So it was a backdoor way for them to at least try to rehabilitate her from the other day, or from yesterday. So I think it was a very smart move. With all that said, I think that the defense really, it was a crushing blow for the state in this case, as it relates to this witness.
Right. Now, Jean and Sonny, you were both in the courtroom, and we touched on this yesterday, trying to read the jurors, if you like. What did you see on this occasion? Do you see the jurors, I don't know, connect to this witness compared to yesterday, Rachel Gintel?
Yeah, jurors were so focused in the courtroom, and I did see some note-taking, but this witness tried to crack some dry jokes every now and then. They weren't laughing because they were so focused on his testimony, and I think the critical nature of his testimony is that the defense must prove that George Zimmerman reasonably believed he was going to die or have serious bodily injury, and that is what this witness described. But I do think the prosecution's theory came out through this witness like we haven't heard it before, that the noise was heard in a distance. Well, that means there could be a confrontation where George Zimmerman was the aggressor that then moved to this area, that Trayvon Martin could have simply been holding down George Zimmerman because he was in fear of his life, and the prosecution tried to float that maybe there was a gun pointed, but of course this witness said, I didn't see anything like that, but I think that could be the prosecution's theory with this witness.
Sonny, I want to talk about Rachel Gintel from yesterday because social media is blowing up over this witness who was on the stand. She was the last person to speak to Trayvon Martin on the phone before he was killed, and people are trying to dissect both sides of this, whether or not she helped or hurt the case here. And whether or not there were so many other things that went into it, you know, her socioeconomic status, her race, the way she looks. Everybody is talking about even her demeanor and how she spoke. What do you make of now that she's become such a phenomenon?
Yeah, it's pretty incredible. You know, is it a commentary on where we are in our society? I don't know, but I will say this. I mean, I prosecuted cases in D.C., and I've put many different people on the witness stand from all different races, from all different socioeconomic backgrounds. And I think what juries really want to see is someone who is being authentic, someone who is credible in that authenticity. And that's what I saw when I was in the courtroom. She was who she is. She spoke with conviction about her version of events, about what she recalls. And I think ultimately, even if the jury, you know, sees that she was kind of rude and agitated the first day, much different the second day, if they believe that she was being authentic, they'll believe that she's credible.
Mark, how did you think the defense did in that exchange?
With Miss Gentile,
Yeah.
I think that Miss Gentile did not come across well at all. I think that she was much better on the second day, but you know, compared to her first day, really anything could be better. The reality of it is that she's a 19-and-a-half-year-old young woman. She is young, but she's a woman. 18 years old in the eyes of the law is an adult. So she's held to the same standards as everybody else is about telling the truth. And regardless of socioeconomic status, regardless of her background, she should always be telling the truth. And we know of several instances, and she's acknowledged it on the stand, where she simply did not tell the truth.
But from the defense, Mark, did the defense attorney handle it well?
No, I think that on the second day they went way too far. I think they had what they needed on the first day, and I think they gave her an opportunity to rehabilitate herself and make her seem more sympathetic. I think that you can always ask that one question too much, and I think they went way too far the second day. They should have hit their points and moved on. They didn't do that, and they gave her a chance to rehabilitate herself.
Jean, 30 minutes or so, we're going to be back in the courtroom, live coverage. What do we expect to see?
Well, we haven't officially been told who the next witness is going to be, but let me tell you what is left. The lead investigator is left. We also have officers that were at the scene. The officer, Tim Smith, that was initially there, that George Zimmerman allegedly said, "I just shot him. I was crying out for help, but no one came to help me." And then we've got all of George Zimmerman's statements, including that video recreation, and we expect to have inconsistencies in those.
All right. Thank you to all three. Of course, 30 minutes away.
Yeah.
We're going to be watching and tuning in very closely.
Be back at it. All right. Yeah, thanks to everyone. Now, don't miss Anderson Cooper tonight. Anderson Cooper 360 got a special on 10 o'clock Eastern. It's called Self-Defense or Murder, the George Zimmerman trial. You'll see that, of course, only on CNN.